Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Ben Jones and this is my dad I'm introducing today. He's Keith Jones. Together it was our concept. This whole thing was our concept and we put it together. Dad's down here working tirelessly with Mum as well. So I brought Dad in today to go through the solar system and the design aspects of it and how it all works, really, how it's all put together.
Yeah, we'll start with an overview and the evolution of where we've got to, and if we want to get a bit more geeky later on, and I can talk you about through some of the cheats that we've done on it to eke a bit more out of the system.
Yeah.
So basically we started off last year with one big battery, one gel battery which was 200 amp hours, and we had two 275 amp hour solar panels going into one charge controller, and that was, we were trying to run the system on that.
You weren't a solar virgin, were you?
No. This is the third and fourth systems that I built, and I mean I started messing around with these probably 7 or 8 years ago. We started off with little ones in the garden, and then my first little one was like a fold up solar panel that was like came in a giant briefcase. But that was still I think it was 150 watts of charging power, and it's a great, absolutely fantastic little system. It's designed for caravans.
Yeah.
You know, and you just fold it out and plug it in and away you go.
Yeah.
So we started off that with 2 solar panels, and we were trying to run a 6 amp big pump on it, a 2 amp small pump, and then we were trying to run an air system on it as well. But the air system, that's probably worth another discussion as well sometime, but we've ended up back with a mains powered air pump. We actually couldn't produce enough power to keep all of that running. So what we did then, decided to boost the system up a load more. We got another 2 solar panels. I had 2 AGM batteries at home, so I brought those down, and I bought a 4th battery. So we got 2 gel batteries now at 200 amp hours each, and 2 AGM batteries that are 250 amp hours each. So we almost nearly got 1,000 amp hours of batteries in there. Now the question is how much power do you need? You know, because last summer was
quite a lot in England apparently.
Yeah, and especially in Yorkshire, because we started last summer, it was dire.
Yeah,
I mean, we were running when we only had the 2 solar panels, and I was really struggling to keep one tiny little 2 amp pump going in the fish tank, because at the end of the day, that's only what you can use a watering can on the rest to keep things moving, but the fish you've got to keep the water moving.
Yeah.
So we cheated, to be honest, and what you do is then you put a speed controller on it, so instead of being 2 amps you can crank it down to only 1 amp of power, and that's how we limped through, and then we gradually built the system up.
Yeah.
We got through the winter very, very easily.
Yeah.
With 4 solar panels, and so yeah, and it's just kept evolving. It doesn't stay the same, and you're always looking for new ideas and ways of expanding it and pushing the system as far as you can for the money that you've got.
Yeah. Getting back to budgets again.
Back to budgets. You've got a money budget, you've got a power budget, you've got a water budget. So I think we've spent all the big spends that we're going to do on this now.
Yeah.
If we were going to go beyond that here, I would say we stick up a bigger tunnel, and with what I've learned, I don't think
be a whole lot more efficient next time.
Yeah, but that's what it was all about. Background, my background is aerospace and defence, so I've been a program manager in aerospace now for the last 20 years. I was program manager responsible for all the electrical power generation on the Airbus A380. So you're talking, at the time, they're the world's biggest generators on there, and all the generator controllers and all those systems. I mean, there was, when I was working there was, I would think 75, 80 people working on that team, so it was a big team. Later on, I worked for ANTI, who did the power distribution system on the Airbus A400M, which is a military transport, so I was looking after that for a few months. And then I've looked after flight control systems on the Boeing 787 and various other projects. So yeah, that's my background. So yeah, I'm sad. Used to being around the engineers, so the more you know, the more you can get out of the system. I spent a lot of time working on the phone with a company called Photonic Universe, which is who I've always bought my kit from. I really like the company.
Link them in the description.
Yeah, Photonic Universe, really good company, good kit. And if you've got any technical issues, you tell them what you want to make, and they'll spec you out a system. So, talk about the systems we've got here. Four solar panels. We've actually got two systems. We've got a big system, which includes that solar panel, and the one at the back. These three here are all south-facing, so they get the sun from mid-morning onwards, right through till late afternoon. The one we put over there that's facing out there down southeast is so we pick up the sunrise first thing in the morning. If it was sunny all the time, of course, we would only you could probably get away with one solar panel, but this is not the Southern Hemisphere. This isn't even Devon. This is North Yorkshire, so we have to plan on worst case.
Yeah.
Three solar panels there running on the big system. The small system just uses that solar panel, which is south facing, and that feeds into a charge controller that's topping up two AGM batteries, and that is the only thing on that system then is the inverter and the oxygen system, the air pump, the big fish pump. It's running 10 air stones in there flat out. We tried a 12 volt air pump that we bought, got in from China, looked like it was a fairly good system, put it on and it died in 24 hours, so we sent that back, and we just went with a normal mains powered air pump because there's less moving parts in it and it's much more reliable. Trouble is it's a lot more power hungry, and so what that means now is we have to turn it from 12 volts into 240 volts mains, and so you have to go through an inverter that does that for you. The inverter itself uses half an amp of power even on standby without using anything, so even overnight when it switches off on a timer it's using power. But what it does mean, because that's on the standalone system, and if we kill the batteries, we've used up all the power, the charge controller says, right, when it gets down to, I forget what it is, it's about 11 volts, it just shuts the system down to protect the batteries, and it will keep them switched off, and it won't turn it back on again until the sun's out and there's some charge back in the batteries, and then it gets to a certain point, it says, right, okay, I can switch back on. So it's a standalone system that we can let run itself, and if we kill it by mistake, it doesn't harm anything, and that's why that's on the standalone system. So welcome to the office. It buzzes in here. So what you've got at the top there is the main system. This section down here is the second system, which is only a third of the charging power, and then at the bottom there you've got the four big batteries that we've got. The two on the right are the gel batteries. They're the newest technology. Really pleased with what they do and how they work. Those two are AGM batteries. Those are a few years older. Those ones I must have had probably 5 years now, but still working fine. What I would say, what's the difference between them? The batteries discharge at a different rate. We'll have to talk that through maybe at another time. So the big system here is taking the power in from 3 solar panels. Let's show you the inside. So on the inside we've got a big charge controller, and we've got all the power coming in, and the charge controller does all the clever safety stuff and the charging up of the batteries. It's all the protection systems are built into there, so you don't overcharge the batteries, you don't over discharge the batteries, so you don't do any harm to them. Again, we started this system off last year, and we were actually inside the tunnel when we first started this last year, and it wasn't in that box, but come late summer we were getting too much humidity inside the tunnel, so we decided we've got to get it out of the tunnel, because electrics and a lot of humidity and the damp and the water in there, it was too much. So yeah, should have been something we thought about early on, but we didn't.
Note for potential builders there.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have a shed. You need to keep it outside as a separate system. So what we've got on here, this is like a little remote display for telling you what's going on. You get 3 readouts on that. It'll tell you what the solar panels are doing, how much power they're making. It'll tell you the battery state, and then it tells you what the state of how much power you're using, or what a load it's called. So you can see what's going on. This is the main control board. This one is just a little output, a little USB output, so we can charge phones in here. We've got an inset.
Didn't know you could charge phones in here?
Yeah, it's phone charger in here. We've got a little fan in here that's running off the USB, and the idea of that is pulling cold air in from the outside, over pressurising the shed, and then blowing the warm air out through the gap in the shed that we built into that. So this control board, what we've got is we've got 5 channels on there of things that we can switch. We've got 1 spare channel here. We've got a small pump here, 1.5 to 2 amp pump. This is the hydroponic system. It's a main 2 amp pump, and the little herbarium's a 0.3 amp, so it pulls 2.3 amps. And we've got 2 pumps on for the fish tank. So depending on how much power we've got, we turn 1 on or we turn 2 on. This one is the big aquaponic pump, and that one on its own can pull 8 amps. But what we do at night, if we want to save power, we've cheated on here, and we've got a speed controller, and you can dial the whole system back. So instead of pulling 8 amps, I can dial it down, and because it's a nice quality motor, it only pulls 2 amps. And what we used for that was a marine sump pump. So we can talk about that maybe another time.
Yeah.
So basically we can dial it up, so at night I would wind that back to maybe 60%, and I'd knock off one of the pumps in there. Then if I look over here, the system has dialed itself back to 5.5 to 6 amps, and it's very happy overnight these days with the amount of hours, and then in the morning we can just crank it back up again. That system is entirely 12 volts and only 12 volts. This system down here is a bit different. This is a small system. So again, that's the charge controller. We've got 1 solar panel coming into this one, but it's charging up two big batteries here. And then what we take in from those batteries, we want to turn that into mains power. So we've got a small inverter here. I say small, it's 1,000 watt maximum. I'm not pulling much out of that at all. 50 watts is all I'm taking out of there. So that turns it, it's 4 amps, sorry, yeah, at 12 watts, 48 watts. So that's turned it into mains, and then that's running the air system here, the little air pump here. And all I've done is put a little mains timer on there. So it comes on about an hour after sunrise in the morning, and it shuts it off about an hour before sunset at night. So it gives the battery a little chance to top up the power. So that's the basic system. Again, what I've actually built into the system here that we ran part of the winter, because we've got 2 separate systems, we needed to keep an emergency pump that could keep the fish running. So this pump here, pump 2 on the tank, I can either connect it off of this system, or I can connect it off of this system, and then we can put it on a speed controller. So if we're really desperate, we can run a pump down at just only 1 amp, and it means it's, when it's a really dark grey day, we can still keep the fish alive.
So this is a fairly complicated system, isn't it? For what it is. So I'm thinking from my point of view, I know nothing about solar power. And I don't know. My electric knowledge is pretty poor. So
yeah. If you know your car electrics, you can build this.
Yeah.
Don't think about messing about with some of this. Some of this is seriously dangerous.
Yeah.
So don't mess about with this if you don't know what you're doing. Get an electrician to do it for you. These are incredibly powerful batteries. If you short those batteries out, they will do you a lot of damage, and you can really hurt yourself. Yeah. So safety first. Don't guess. What I've done on the system as well, just for safety's sake, I've covered it in fuses on every system. Where if it's a 2 amp pump, and the manufacturers say put a 4 amp fuse on it, I've only got half an amp above what what we actually need on there, as small a fuse as possible, so if something goes wrong we don't damage anything. The other thing I like using, what you'll see here is a circuit breaker, and I'll show you how that works. The circuit breaker is no different to what your circuit breakers are at home, and I can automatically trip that, so when I press it the system trips. So if you pull too much current, the system switches off, and then you can just reset it. Yeah, without getting into too much more. I think that's a good start. One of the things you got to think about, although things are only running, maybe the pumps are only running 2 amps in here, when you start running long cable runs, the wire has a lot of resistance in it, so you have to use a lot bigger wire than you might expect that you might have to. And if you don't, the efficiency isn't very good, and you lose a lot of efficiency on it. So there's calculators online, and you can go online and you can say what power you're going to pull and how long the cable's going to be, and it'll tell you what size section wires you've got to use and all that sort of thing. So what we're mostly using in here, so what we've got down in here, this is the Aquaponics sump. It's a 1,000 litre sump. So you've got a marine pump down here, and it's got a water level float switch on there, so if something goes wrong it protects the system. And then we're using tiny little 2 amp pumps down here. So we've got 2 in here, and we've got another one down in the hydroponic system. So what we've got, the most important thing in here, of course, at the moment you've got to keep alive is the fish. On a good day like today, we are running 2 pumps in here, 2 2 amp pumps, changing the water in the system. They are moving, from memory, I think it's about 600 litres an hour each. And then what you can't see is you've got the air stones in the bottom there to keep the airflow going. So we have the big pump that we've got down the bottom there is running all the aquaponics down that side, and it returns it all down to the sump. And on this side we've got one tiny little 2 amp pump right down the bottom there that's doing 72 metres of hydroponic gutters. So it's a much more efficient system.
Yeah. So on your aquaponic side, the oxygen saturation in the water is of vital importance, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, if you're off grid, it's going to be taking a lot of your power up as well. So yeah.
So what we do is, when it's a good day, the oxygen system runs, the air system runs, because it keeps the plants happier, it keeps the fish happier, keeps the water fresher. Yeah.
What's this highly technical piece of equipment that you've got in your hands here?
This is the fish feeder. When we first started, I was coming down trying to feed the fish twice a day, every day, and it was driving me nuts. So I thought we've got to get a fish feeder. And I looked into getting the big fish feeders, but to be honest, this is a great little feeder that does what we need. We've got about 30 fish in there. I top it up probably every couple of days. And then what I do is when I clean out the fish filters once a week, I look at how much rubbish is coming through. If there's food in there, I'm feeding too much. If there's no food in there, I crank it up. So they're up to 4 feeds a day at the minute. And I'm just opening this little slot up here and adjusting that. Problem is, if you overfeed the fish, you get food settling in the system, and the whole system gets cloudy. Doesn't look very healthy. This side is all hydroponic. What you're actually seeing here now is the Nero kale that we were eating all winter. We've let that go to seed now, because we want to actually, what we're starting to grow here, you can see the little seed pods just beginning to grow. And what we're going to do is harvest those. Easiest way of keeping those, by the way, is just get yourself a big carrier bag. Don't bother trying to separate them when you get all the pods. Chuck them in there and chuck it in the garage for 6 months, and when you come back, all the pods will have broken open, all the seeds are in the bottom, and the job's done for you. But what you've got is you've got the sump tank down the bottom, and it's pumping. There's one pump in there, and the water's going up to the header tank up the top here, and the water's then going to the 12 gutters here and the 6 gutters here, and the extra water then is going into the raft tank. The raft tank overfills and it goes down into the flood and drain tank, and then when the flood and drain gets filled up, it flushes and dumps into the bottom, and it's on about 12-15 minute cycle. If it was a cloudy day, it'd probably be a bit more than that. But on a good day, you know, today's a nice day, so it'll be flushing probably on about a 15-minute cycle at the moment. But basically, the water comes into the top. It comes
Trickles in.
Trickles in. Yeah, you can see it trickle there. Goes along, comes in here, goes along, and then they both go down the other end, back down this way, and then back down the sump tank again.
So, why did we go for the rack systems?
Why do we go for rack systems? Because it's three-dimensional. We were very two-dimensional in here to start with last year. Everything was all at one level, and then we started looking at ideas of ways we could get use more space in here, and so we went vertical. The first system we built had just three gutters going up here, and then we said, well, if we put the tall plants at the back and the small ones in the front, we can double up and we get twice as much out of the same floor space. And then we said, well, why don't we double up again? And that's how we've just ended up building 12 gutter system off. So other things I want to upgrade on it, absolutely. So you can see up, I don't know if you can see up there, there's one of those pipes, there's a real solid blue pipe. I either want to get hard solid blue pipe like that or black pipe that won't green up. And then the other thing I want to upgrade on those now we need, which we've talked about, is gutter covers to stop them greening up, but that's another topic for another day on the gutter construction.
So in terms of budget and efficiency, you would probably opt for the hydroponic system.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't need power for it necessarily, do you?
No. Well, it's worth me mentioning that we've got a backup system in here. Although the hydroponics only takes 2 amps to run 72 meters of growing space. Last summer when we hadn't got power, what I was doing is I was getting a watering can, and twice a day I just put a watering can down at each of these gutters, and it was flushing through, and it kept everything alive. I've got my backup system for this one. I've got a mechanical pump. It cost me 20 quid. So you just literally, it's just a hand crank system, and it pumps the water up, self-priming, and takes the water up onto the header tank there. It takes about 1.5 minutes to crank the system up, and then the system runs for about 10 minutes. So yeah, you don't even have to use a watering can anymore.
Right, so that's all from us today. Thank you very much for the grand tour and for your electrical knowledge.
Yeah.
See you again soon, guys. Thanks for watching.